And I think we're live. Yeah, so today I just wanted to talk a little bit about the ISIS brides, Huda Motani. I'm probably pronouncing that incorrectly, but who cares? And Begum, which is an ironic name considering she's now begging to be let back into the UK, a country which she has virtually no tangible connection to other than being um, other than living there for a few years before she decided to join ISIS. And there are a number of issues this raises. The obvious one being what we should do with people that essentially are not that are kind of like the best word to describe them would be parasites. They're living in their host country to exploit it and to advance their very bizarre religion or cult, if you prefer. In this case, Islam. It's the largest cult in the world in the sense of having the most adherents, around 1 billion. Even though a lot of those people are not really sincere Muslims in the sense that they believe in the Quran. They're simply Muslims because openly rejecting Islam would mean their deaths or persecution. But it is still the largest cult. And the problem you have when you have mass immigration from Muslim countries to Western countries is that these people tenaciously stick to their religion because they believe. They don't see it as immigration the way we see it, coming to a country and assimilating and looking for better opportunities for you and your children. That's what the traditional kind of rose-colored view of immigration is, something that your ancestors, in my case, Irish or Italian families in in the 19th century came here looking for better opportunities, and that's how people traditionally viewed immigration. But for Muslims, immigration is a form of hijra. What Muhammad did when he moved from Mecca, when he realized that people didn't like Islam, his new religion, when he moved from Mecca to Medina, and it was called the hijra, and that's what Muslims are doing. In a lot of cases, they do it for economic reasons. They just the countries that they live in are closed economic systems, and it's very difficult. Whereas in the West, they can either subsist on welfare, or even in low wage jobs, can still eke out a living that's more profitable than living in Cairo or Rabat, or in this case Bangladesh. But the point remains, this is not a sense of people searching for a better life. While there are some people that escape persecution, in a lot of cases, the people who come are escaping um, valid persecution. I mean, they're being targeted because they're Islamists by secular um, pan-Arabist or nationalist governments. So, I mean, it's someone that we would not consider a genuine political dissident in the sense that they're fighting for economic or political freedom. But uh, my point is that this is something that that we just don't understand. A lot of people in the West, that these people, they're not searching for the better life. They want their life to be better, but they don't want our lives to be better. And in a lot of cases, these are people that want our lives to be much worse. So now these two women, and there's several others that were essentially ISIS war brides, the Mutana and Begum. They they want to come back because their side lost, and they're trying to put like a patina of um I guess acceptability on what they're doing by saying they were brainwashed. But the fact is, they were brainwashed by Islam, and that happened long before they decided to join ISIS. And there really isn't a valid reason for them to return. I mean, there's one legitimate caveat which David Wood mentioned in one of his live streams the other night, which is the UK in particular. You have this Muslim Home Secretary that's making a big deal of being very, very strongly opposed to this woman's return. But in fact, you have many equally bad, if not worse, jihadists who are returning. Thousands of them have lived, returned, or or being born in the UK to jihadist families. There really isn't an ironclad rule against jihadists in the UK. There are 15,000 of them under surveillance right now, according to MI5. So this is really more for publicity stunt for them. The fact that this woman was was kind of the media face of ISIS and their propaganda machine. That's really why she's being opposed, not that she's a jihadist, because the UK has thousands and thousands of jihadists. So, I mean, that's a valid concern, but I don't think it negates the original point, which is that she doesn't have any right to come back to the UK. She's not a Briton, and that's the thing. The progressive left has this view that if you're born in a country, and this is true just according to Just Solely and Supreme Court interpretations of the 14th Amendment, you are an American. Like, regardless, even if you're an anchor baby, you're an American by law, legally. But that does not make you an American spiritually or by inclination, by philosophy. And it's the same thing in the UK or Germany, which countries that don't have this law, or at least Germany doesn't. They have just sanguinis. If you're born in a European country, that doesn't make you a European. Just like if you're born in America, that doesn't make you an American. You can despise this country and still be a citizen. But these people don't have any valid right to come to the country, return to their country of birth in one case. In another case, I don't even think she was born in the country. Begum, the British woman, she's Bengali, and I just like to point out there are thousands of Bengalis who are quote unquote stateless persons. The Rohingya, which the media repeatedly does stories about and emphasizes the plight of the Rohingya, notwithstanding the fact that there are Christians being persecuted in Burma that get no coverage whatsoever. But there are thousands of Rohingya Muslims in Bangladesh who are technically stateless persons. This woman, she can go back to Bangladesh and be a stateless person with them. And she's a Bengali, so she has an even more. She's even more closely identified with that country. It's not like she's going to be. She came there from. She has other ethnic origins, but she can go with the Rohingya, and it would be a perfectly valid solution. Another thing that I'd like to mention is the lawyer for the American jihadi bride, Muthana. It's hard to pronounce the name, but Mutana, I think is her first name. And her lawyer's name is Hassan Shibli. And this guy is just as much a jihadist as his wife. This is another misconception that we have in the West, that in order to be a jihadist, you have to carry arms, or you have to, in this case, maybe make propaganda videos. But Hassan Shibli is just as much of jihadist and even more of a threat because he's embedded in our culture. This is someone we can't. I mean, if he wasn't born here, I guess we could technically deport him if we find him violating certain laws. But he's pretty much here to stay, and he's embedded in our culture, embedded in our legal system, and trying to trying to get more jihadists like him and even more violent jihadists into the United States. This is a guy, he has the full length, down to his Adam's apple Talib beard. He has the Mufti cap on his head. He's a complete dyed-in-the-wool jihadist who works for CARE, which is an offshoot of the Muslim Brotherhood. And like everyone else at CARE, he's trying to undermine this country and to commit, as Robert Spencer terms it, stealth jihad. That's what he's doing. And he's a much bigger threat than isolated individuals, jihadists, who make videos and encourage terrorist attacks, which is what she did. So, I mean, she has blood on her hands, but Hassan Shibli also is a jihadist. There's no other way around it. And I think that's something else that we have to focus on. And finally, just the idea that these women need to be de-radicalized. Or it was really funny. I think one of her last videos, one of her last interviews, she said she wants to help de-radicalize Muslim youth that are considering joining ISIS or something. And it's just so laughable. I mean, let me just put this point blank. These people do not need to be de-radicalized. They need to be de-Islamized or Islamicized. Just harken back to David Wood, the idea, his series Islamicize Me, which is a brilliant satire of Islam. These people have been Islamicized. They haven't been radicalized. ISIS is just the quintessence of Islam, of what Muhammad believed in. And if there are Muslims who aren't doing what ISIS does, that's because they're not adhering scrupulously to Islam. In other words, they're not sincere Muslims. Thankfully, we can all be grateful for that. But these people need to be de-Islamized. In other words, they need to have the Islam taken out of them. There's not some radicalization, some chemical process that turns someone into an ISIS bride or a jihadi embedded with a jihadist organization in Syria. It's Islam. It's all Islam. And ISIS is simply a manifestation of Islam. And these people need to be de-Islamicized. In that sense, I would support her son, who's a baby or an infant or whatever. I would support him being able to come to the U.S. on the condition that he be raised by non-Muslims, hopefully by Christians, but definitely by non-Muslims, and have a normal life. I mean, I would support that, but I don't think she or anyone else in this situation deserves to come to the U.S. They should. I mean, the rightful punishment would have been their execution. even though they hate God, God was gracious in the sense that he let them survive and not be killed. So, I mean, they should be thanking themselves that they are in the custody of Kurdish Peshmergas instead of dead. That would have been their just punishment. Uh, but they certainly don't deserve to come back here. And the problem is Islam. That's the long and short of it.